Money does not run from you because you lack effort, intelligence, or opportunity. And need is a confession of separation, the very state that closes the door you are trying to force open. You were taught to hunt money, to corner it, to outrun others for it. Yet money does not respond to pressure. It responds to position. It moves toward the one who stands in alignment, not toward the one who begs, strains, or proves. Think carefully about your relationship with money. Is it calm or tense? Do you expect it to arrive, or do you fear it will leave? The unseen responds to expectation far more than desire, and fear of loss is louder than hope for gain. Many people say they want wealth, yet their inner posture says, "It never stays." That belief acts like a silent command, and money, obedient to law, follows the command instead of the wish. There is a spiritual reason money avoids struggle. Struggle says, "I am the source." Alignment says, "The source is infinite, and I am provided for." One posture exhausts, the other attracts, and money always chooses the easier channel. Notice how money often arrives when you stop obsessing over it. A chance meeting, an unexpected idea, a door you weren't watching suddenly opens. This is not coincidence, it is law revealing itself when resistance drops. Chasing money puts you behind it. You are always reacting, always catching up, always anxious about the next bill or the next month. The one who leads never chases. They stand in expectancy, and supply moves to meet them. Ask yourself how often you speak of money with tension. Complaints, calculations, worries disguised as responsibility. Each word builds an atmosphere, and money is sensitive to atmosphere. It cannot live peacefully where fear dominates. The spiritual mistake is believing money is something you must grab before it escapes. That belief makes escape inevitable. You cannot hold what you believe is temporary, slippery, or disloyal. Expect loss, and loss will comply. Money does not like to be hunted. It likes to be welcomed. It responds to confidence, stewardship, and calm authority. When you trust supply, money feels safe staying. When you distrust it, money moves on. Many people confuse effort with alignment. They work harder, hustle longer, and push further yet feel poorer inside. Effort without alignment creates friction, and friction repels what could otherwise flow easily. There is a difference between action and strain. Right action feels directed. Strain feels frantic. Money answers right action, not frantic motion. When you act from fear, you multiply fear. When you act from trust, you multiply results. Consider how often you think, "I'll feel secure once I have more." This postpones peace. Peace must come first. Security is not the reward of money. It is the condition that allows money to remain. Money leaves environments of chaos. It stays where there is order, mental, emotional, and spiritual. When your thoughts are scattered and your words conflicted, money reflects that instability by coming and going. You may have noticed that sudden gains often vanish. This is not punishment. It is mismatch. The inner state was not ready to host the outer increase. Money departs when it is not recognized as natural. Chasing money says, "I don't believe supply knows where I am." Trust says, "What is mine cannot miss me." That sentence alone corrects years of anxiety if you let it. The moment you stop chasing, something inside relaxes, breath deepens, thought slows, and in that quieter state, intuition speaks. Guidance replaces worry. Direction replaces desperation. Money does not arrive through panic, it arrives through leads, quiet instructions, simple steps, often unimpressive, But those who obey these leads without fear find themselves in the right place at the right time. Fearful chasing drowns guidance. The mind is too loud to hear direction. This is why rest is productive. When you stop forcing, you become receptive. And receptivity is the true magnet. The spiritual reason money avoids you is not moral, it is mechanical. You have been sending mixed signals, wanting abundance while expecting loss, asking for increase while bracing for collapse. The law cannot respond to contradiction. It waits for clarity. The moment your inner agreement is restored, money responds with surprising speed. You do not need to convince money to come. You need to stop convincing yourself it will leave. That belief has shaped every experience you've had with it so far. Notice how often you measure yourself by bank balance. That turns money into a judge. And money does not stay where it is resented, feared, or given authority over identity. Money is a servant, not a master. When you chase it, you reverse roles. When you stand in alignment, money resumes its proper place, moving to support, not control. The spiritual shift happens when you stop saying, "I need money," and begin knowing, "I am supplied." One sentence is desperation. The other is authority. Authority does not shout. It does not hurry. It does not explain. It assumes support and moves accordingly. And money, recognizing that tone, follows naturally. There is nothing wrong with desiring wealth. The issue is desiring it with fear. Fear poisons desire. Desire without fear is creative. Desire with fear is repellent. Many people block money by watching it too closely, counting, checking, worrying, rehearsing loss. Attention fueled by fear drains instead of builds. Trust multiplies what fear depletes. When you stop chasing money, you free mental energy. That energy turns into ideas, timing, and confidence. And those qualities attract money more effectively than effort ever could. The shift begins inwardly, before income changes, before circumstances move. You decide to stop running, to stop pleading, to stop arguing with supply. Money cannot outrun alignment. What belongs to you by law will come when you stand where it can find you. Calm, receptive, and expectant. Ask yourself honestly, have you been chasing or receiving, forcing or allowing, proving or trusting? Your answer explains everything you've experienced so far. This is not about doing less. It is about doing differently, acting from guidance instead of anxiety, moving with confidence instead of fear. The moment you stop chasing, money loses the reason to run. The relationship corrects itself, and what once felt elusive begins to feel inevitable. Stand still inwardly, release the hunt, assume support, and watch how money, no longer pursued, finally turns and comes toward you, under grace, in perfect order. Money has never been repelled by a man's lack of effort. It has been repelled by his position. This distinction is so important that its misunderstanding alone has cost men entire lifetimes of unnecessary struggle. Effort speaks of motion, but position speaks of authority. Money responds to authority, not exertion. When a man chases money, he places it ahead of himself psychologically. He declares, without words, that money is scarce, evasive, and superior. This declaration is not a thought alone, it is a posture. And posture governs result more decisively than desire ever could. The mind that pursues is the mind that confesses need. Need is not merely wanting, it is separation. It is the belief that supply exists elsewhere and must be captured before it escapes. Money, being governed by law, cannot remain where separation is assumed. It moves away because it has been instructed to do so. I have observed countless men who worked tirelessly, intelligently, and honestly, yet remained financially strained. Their difficulty did not lie in effort, but in inner stance. They approached money as something to be hunted rather than something to be hosted. Their energy was always forward-leaning, tense, and urgent. Money responded by staying just beyond reach. Contrast this with men of far less visible effort who seemed always supported. Opportunities found them. Assistance arrived without strain. Money appeared without being summoned. These men were not idle, they were positioned. They stood in expectancy rather than pursuit. Expectation differs from hope. Hope waits nervously. Expectation stands calmly. The man who expects supply does not watch the door anxiously. He assumes arrival. This assumption removes pressure, and pressure is the signal money avoids. Money is sensitive to atmosphere. It behaves much like a guest. Where there is tension, it shortens its stay. Where there is calm order, it lingers. The atmosphere of pursuit is always tense. The atmosphere of position is always settled. Many men confuse motion with progress. They believe constant activity proves seriousness. Yet frantic motion often announces fear rather than faith. Fear multiplies itself through action taken without direction. Money does not respond to motion born of anxiety. It responds to motion born of alignment. The man who stands in position does not beg life to respond. He moves as though response is natural. This subtle difference changes everything. He does not rush decisions. He does not plead with circumstance. He assumes cooperation. Others sense this immediately. Employers, partners, and associates respond differently to a man who stands in authority. They trust him more readily. They offer opportunity without being asked. They feel safe engaging with him because he is not grasping. Grasping repels. Holding attracts. This is not sentiment. It is law. A man cannot grasp and receive at the same time. The hands that clutch cannot open. I once studied a man who struggled financially for years while working longer hours than anyone around him. He spoke constantly of bills, deadlines, and competition. His mind was always forward, chasing the next relief. When he learned to withdraw his mental pursuit and assume support instead, his behavior changed. He worked fewer hours, made better decisions, and was soon earning more with less strain. His income did not increase because he worked harder. It increased because he stopped announcing desperation. Money no longer needed to run. Another man of modest skill but calm expectation rarely lacked. He did not speak of money often. He assumed provision. When opportunities appeared, he responded without hesitation but without urgency. His steadiness invited trust. Others brought him work, resources, and ideas. This difference in outcome cannot be explained by intelligence or effort. It can only be explained by position. Position is not arrogance. It is alignment. The man who stands in alignment does not demand more than is right. He simply refuses to beg for what is lawful. Many men believe humility requires anxiety. They confuse meekness with weakness. True humility trusts law. It does not panic. It does not chase. When a man says inwardly, "I must hurry, or I will miss it," he instructs loss. When he says, "What is mine cannot miss me," he instructs order. These instructions operate regardless of belief. They are positions, not wishes. Money cannot outrun alignment. What belongs to a man by law will find him when he stands where it can recognize him calm, receptive, and unafraid. This is why money often arrives when attention is elsewhere. The mind has relaxed. The pursuit has ceased. The channel has opened. Men call this luck. It is obedience to law. The man who chases watches constantly. Watching from fear drains energy. It sharpens awareness of lack. It magnifies absence. Money responds by staying absent. The man who stands watches quietly. He notices direction rather than deficiency. Money responds by moving toward creation. Many men spend 10, 20, even 30 years exhausting themselves in pursuit, believing the chase itself is proof of worth. Worth is not proven by pursuit. Worth is assumed by position. When position changes, effort becomes effective. Action becomes guided. Motion becomes purposeful. Money responds because confusion has ended. Affirmations at this stage must establish position, not pleading. Statements such as, "I stand in expectancy," or "Supply moves toward me," correct posture. These statements are not emotional. They are directional. Repetition is essential because position was formed through repetition. A man has practiced pursuit for years. He must practice standing still inwardly until it feels natural. At first, stillness feels dangerous. The mind fears loss of control. It says, "If I stop chasing, nothing will happen." This fear reveals the habit. Persistence corrects it. Within days of withdrawing pursuit, a man often notices mental relief. Breath deepens. Thought slows. Guidance becomes audible. This guidance was always present, but fear drowned it out. Money often follows guidance, not effort. A quiet suggestion, a timely meeting, a simple idea. These arrive when the mind is not frantic. This is why rest is productive. Not rest of the body alone, but rest of the mind. The mind that rests stops repelling. Others see the difference quickly. They say the man seems calmer, more assured, less strained. They feel drawn to cooperate. Money follows cooperation. This law alone explains why money has run from so many capable men. They have been chasing it with the very posture that instructs it to flee. The correction is not to do less, but to stand differently, to act without strain, to expect without pleading, to move without panic. And when position is established, money no longer needs to run. It slows, it turns, and it comes to rest where it is trusted to stay. When a man ceases to chase money and learns instead to stand in position, a second force immediately reveals itself. This force has governed his financial life quietly for years, often without his awareness. It is the atmosphere of expectation in which he lives. Money does not respond to words alone. It responds to the climate those words create within the mind. Expectation is more powerful than desire because it operates continuously. Desire appears in moments. Expectation remains when the mind is unguarded. It shapes reaction before thought has time to intervene. For this reason, expectation determines whether money stays or departs once it arrives. Many men expect loss, even while praying for gain. They say inwardly, "If it comes, it will not last," or "Something will go wrong." These thoughts are not dramatic, yet they are decisive. They establish an atmosphere of instability, and money reflects that instability faithfully. I have observed men who received sudden increase only to lose it with equal speed. They believed this was misfortune. In truth, their inner climate could not support continuity. Money arrived into an environment prepared for departure. Contrast this with men who expected steadiness. They did not expect miracles, nor did they fear collapse. They assumed order. Their financial lives moved gradually, but securely. Money remained because it felt at home. Atmosphere is not created by what a man says publicly, but by what he assumes privately. When money arrives, does the man relax or tense? Does he expect continuity or interruption? These reactions reveal expectation more clearly than speech. The man who tenses upon receiving money signals distrust. He watches it closely. He guards it anxiously. He prepares for loss. Money, sensing this expectation, departs to restore balance. The man who relaxes signals trust. He manages calmly. He plans thoughtfully. He assumes order. Money responds by remaining because its presence no longer creates tension. Expectation also governs how a man interprets events. The man who expects loss interprets every delay as confirmation. The man who expects order interprets delay as adjustment. These interpretations guide behavior, and behavior confirms expectation. This is why two men may experience identical circumstances with opposite results. One panics and loses ground. The other adapts and advances. The difference lies not in circumstance, but in expectation. Others sense expectation instinctively. They trust men who appear stable. They hesitate with those who seem braced for collapse. Financial cooperation flows toward perceived continuity. I once studied a businessman who lost confidence each time his income rose. He had learned early in life that gain was followed by hardship. Though his circumstances changed, his expectation did not. Money obeyed expectation, not environment. When he retrained himself to expect steadiness rather than loss, his decisions changed. He no longer rushed. He no longer overreacted. His business stabilized without dramatic effort. Expectation operates silently. It does not announce itself. It prepares the mind in advance. For this reason, it is often mistaken for realism. Men say, "I am only being practical." In truth, they are rehearsing fear. Practicality that contradicts law is merely tradition. Law responds to assumption, not justification. The expectation of struggle creates struggle. The expectation of ease invites ease. This does not mean effort disappears. It means effort becomes effective. Many men live in a financial atmosphere of chaos because their expectations are scattered. One moment, they expect abundance. The next, they expect disaster. This contradiction destabilizes outcome. Money cannot remain in chaos. It requires order. Where order is absent, money comes and goes unpredictably. The correction is not to demand more money, but to correct expectation. The man must decide inwardly what kind of climate he will live in. Will it be one of fear or one of order? Affirmations at this stage must address continuity rather than arrival. Statements such as, "My supply is steady," or "I expect support to continue," retrain expectation. Repetition is essential because expectation was formed through repetition. This repetition must be calm. Emotion is unnecessary. Expectation responds to certainty, not excitement. As expectation changes, behavior follows naturally. The man plans longer term. He spends more wisely. He reacts less emotionally. These behaviors stabilize finances more effectively than effort alone. Others respond to this stability. They offer longer commitments. They extend trust. They cooperate without hesitation. Money flows where trust exists. Many men waste years cycling between hope and fear. They celebrate gain and dread loss. This cycle exhausts energy and prevents accumulation. Correct expectation ends the cycle. When expectation is corrected, money no longer needs to test the environment. It settles. It remains. This law explains why money has run from many men who were no longer chasing it. They stopped pursuing, but they still expected loss. Position without expectation is incomplete. Expectation completes position. When both are aligned, money finds no reason to flee. This correction alone can save decades of instability. It replaces financial weather with financial climate. The man who expects order does not fear fluctuation. He adjusts without panic. He trusts the process. Money responds by trusting him. When expectation is steady, life becomes predictable in the best sense. Progress replaces surprise. Continuity replaces crisis. This is the second spiritual reason money has run away. It was expected to do so. When expectation changes, money's behavior changes accordingly. And where steadiness is assumed, supply remains to fulfill that assumption. Even when a man has ceased chasing money and has corrected the atmosphere of expectation in which he lives, money may still appear restless. It may come, yet not stay. It may appear helpful, yet feel burdensome. When this occurs, another cause is at work, one that few men examine honestly. This cause is the emotional safety a man provides for money once it arrives. Money, though lifeless in form, responds to living law. It behaves according to the emotional conditions imposed upon it. Where money is received with fear, resentment, guilt, or suspicion, it cannot remain comfortably. It departs not as punishment, but as obedience. Many men secretly fear money. They speak of wanting it, yet inwardly associate it with pressure, responsibility, conflict, or loss. They believe money changes people for the worse. They fear becoming burdened or exposed. This fear acts as a silent command. I have known men who earned well, yet lived in constant strain. They watched every expense anxiously. They reacted emotionally to fluctuation. Their money carried tension, and tension shortens endurance. Money left because it was not welcomed peacefully. Another man of lesser income, but calmer disposition, managed money without fear. He respected it without worshiping it. He did not monitor it obsessively. He assumed order. His money stayed because it felt safe. Emotional safety is created by trust. When a man trusts himself to manage supply wisely, money relaxes in his hands. When he distrusts himself or the future, money reflects that distrust by leaving. Many men believe anxiety proves responsibility. They think worry is evidence of care. In truth, anxiety announces fear. Fear drains judgment. Judgment impaired by fear makes poor decisions. Poor decisions invite loss. Money does not respond to vigilance born of fear. It responds to stewardship born of trust. The emotional environment surrounding money determines how it behaves. A man who resents money for the trouble it brings teaches it to leave. A man who feels guilty for having money teaches it to disappear. A man who fears loss teaches it to fulfill that fear. Sudden gains often vanish because the emotional environment is unprepared. The man has not learned to feel at ease with increase. His mind remains in scarcity, while money arrives in abundance. This mismatch creates discomfort, and discomfort seeks resolution through loss. This is not cruelty. It is law restoring balance. The man who wishes money to stay must make peace with it emotionally. He must cease resenting it, fearing it, or treating it as dangerous. He must regard it as a tool, not a test. Others sense this peace instinctively. They trust men who handle money without agitation. They avoid those who treat money as volatile. Financial cooperation flows toward emotional stability. I once observed a man who received a large sum unexpectedly and lost it within months. He admitted later that he never felt comfortable holding it. He expected trouble. Trouble came. Another man received modest increase steadily. He felt calm. He planned. He adjusted. Over time, his modest increase surpassed the sudden gain of the other. Emotional readiness mattered more than amount. Emotional safety also governs generosity. The man who gives from guilt depletes himself. The man who gives from abundance multiplies. Money flows toward balanced exchange. Fearful monitoring of money drains it. Calm attention multiplies it. Attention fueled by fear contracts supply. Attention guided by trust expands it. Many men believe money must be controlled tightly. They equate control with security. In truth, control born of fear repels. Management born of order retains. Affirmations at this stage must address emotional posture, not income. Statements such as, "Money is safe with me," or "I manage supply calmly and wisely," retrain feeling. Repetition is essential, for emotional association was formed through repetition. These affirmations must be spoken without urgency. Calm tone instructs calm response. Emotion is unnecessary. As emotional safety increases, behavior changes naturally. The man no longer reacts impulsively. He plans thoughtfully. He neither hoards nor squanders. These behaviors stabilize finances effortlessly. Others respond to this change. They entrust resources. They extend credit. They cooperate willingly. Money follows trust. Many men spend years increasing income without increasing emotional readiness. They wonder why money never stays. The cause lies not in earning, but in reception. Money stays where it is welcomed peacefully. It leaves where it is treated as threat. This law explains why chasing and expectation alone cannot hold wealth. Without emotional safety, position collapses. When emotional order is established, money finds rest. This correction alone can save decades of stress. It replaces vigilance with wisdom. It replaces fear with stewardship. The man who creates emotional safety for money no longer fears gain. He no longer dreads loss. He manages change without panic. Money responds by remaining. This is the third spiritual reason money has run away. It was not emotionally welcomed. When the emotional environment is corrected, money no longer seeks escape. It settles, it stays, and it serves the one who no longer fears it. Even when a man has corrected his position, steadied his expectation, and created emotional safety for money, supply may still appear inconsistent if another misunderstanding remains uncorrected. This misunderstanding concerns authority. Money does not respond to pleading, hoping, or explaining. It responds to authority. And authority is not asserted outwardly. It is assumed inwardly. Many men approach money as petitioners. They ask for it, worry over it, justify their need for it, and attempt to persuade life that they deserve it. This posture announces inferiority. It places money above the man. Money, responding to this arrangement, refuses to remain. Authority does not beg. Authority does not argue. Authority assumes provision and moves accordingly. The man who stands in authority does not need to announce it. His posture declares it without words. I have observed men who constantly explained their financial difficulties. They believed explanation was honesty. In truth, it was rehearsal. Every explanation reinforced the belief that lack was real, persistent, and powerful. Money obeyed the explanation rather than the intention. The man who lives in authority does not deny facts, but he refuses to dramatize them. He addresses difficulty quietly and moves forward without narration. This restraint is not denial. It is command. Authority begins with inner settlement. When a man decides inwardly, I am supported, his tone changes, his movements slow, his decisions simplify. Others sense this immediately and respond differently. Money recognizes authority as safety. Where authority is present, chaos is absent. Money settles where order governs. Need repels because it announces chaos. It says, I am not secure. I do not trust the process. Money cannot remain where insecurity dominates. It moves away to restore equilibrium. The man who stands in authority does not measure his worth by money. He does not allow balance to define identity. This separation restores proper order. Money becomes servant again. Many men give money power it was never meant to hold. They let it judge them. They let it threaten them. They let it define success or failure. This inversion corrupts relationship. Money resists being master. When authority is reclaimed, money relaxes. It no longer needs to dominate or escape. It serves. Others sense this authority instinctively. They trust the man who does not plead. They cooperate with the man who does not pressure. They offer resources to the one who does not demand them. I once studied a man who remained in financial struggle despite steady income. He constantly spoke of his obligations. He explained his worries. He sought reassurance. When he learned to stop explaining and begin assuming support, his circumstances changed rapidly. He did not earn more immediately. He spent differently. He chose differently. His posture invited opportunity. Money followed. Authority also governs patience. The man who stands in authority does not rush supply. He trusts timing. This trust removes strain. Strain is always the signal of mistrust. Money moves toward trust because trust creates order. Order invites continuity. Affirmations at this stage must assert authority without force. Statements such as, I am supported now, or I move with calm authority, correct posture. These statements are not emotional appeals. They are positional declarations. Repetition is essential. Because authority was surrendered gradually, it must be reclaimed deliberately. Each repetition strengthens settlement. As authority becomes habitual, fear loses voice. Fear cannot speak where authority governs. Doubt retreats because it finds no audience. Others mirror this shift. Conversations become easier. Negotiations soften. Cooperation increases. Money follows cooperation. Many men waste decades explaining their lack instead of assuming their supply. Explanation reinforces limitation. Assumption restores order. When authority is established, money no longer needs to test the environment. It remains. This law explains why some men receive without struggle. They are not favored. They are aligned. Authority does not shout. It does not threaten. It does not hurry. It proceeds. When you proceed as one who expects support, life responds accordingly. This is the fourth spiritual reason money has run away. It was treated as judge rather than servant. When authority is restored, money resumes its rightful place. It follows, it serves, and it stays where it is not feared, pleaded with, or given power it was never meant to hold. Even when a man has corrected his position, steadied his expectation, created emotional safety for money, and reclaimed inner authority, money may still appear to move slowly or unpredictably if one final habit persists. This habit is force. Money does not respond to force. It responds to guidance. And guidance is never loud. Force arises when a man believes he must make things happen through will alone. He pushes, presses, and accelerates action without direction. Though his intention is progress, his motion is driven by fear of delay. Fear, even when disguised as diligence, repels what could otherwise flow with ease. Guidance operates differently. It appears quietly, often unimpressively. A thought to call someone, a suggestion to wait, a simple adjustment in timing. These impressions do not announce importance. They require trust to be followed. The man who lives in force dismisses guidance because it appears too small. He prefers dramatic action. He believes effort must feel strenuous to be effective. This belief keeps him busy while remaining unprovided. I have observed men who worked constantly, yet advanced slowly. Their schedules were full, but their results were thin. They acted from urgency rather than direction. Money did not follow, because money does not reward motion. It rewards alignment. Contrast this with men who moved less, but progressed more. They waited when waiting was wise. They acted when action was clear. Their steps were fewer, but exact. Money followed their obedience. Guidance is drowned out by anxiety. The mind that is rushing cannot hear instruction. This is why stillness is productive, not idleness, but inward quiet. When the mind rests, direction rises naturally. Many men mistake rest for laziness. In truth, rest is receptivity. It allows the unseen to arrange what force cannot. Money often arrives through ideas rather than exertion. Ideas appear when the mind is not strained. The man who forces misses ideas because he is too busy proving effort. Others sense this difference. They trust men who move with purpose rather than frenzy. They cooperate with those who listen rather than push. Money flows where cooperation exists. I once observed a man who exhausted himself chasing opportunity. When he learned to pause and listen inwardly before acting, his decisions improved dramatically. He made fewer errors. His income stabilized. He worked less and received more. Friction consumes energy. Guidance conserves energy. Money responds to conservation. Many men believe they must overcome obstacles. In truth, most obstacles dissolve when approached correctly. Force magnifies obstacles. Guidance navigates around them. The man who acts from guidance does not feel rushed. He trusts timing. This trust removes desperation. Desperation always repels. Money does not respond to hurry. It responds to order. Order requires patience. Affirmations at this stage must affirm guidance rather than effort. Statements such as, "I am guided to my supply," or "Right action comes easily to me," retrain the mind toward receptivity. Repetition is essential because force has been practiced for years. These affirmations must be spoken calmly. Urgency contradicts their meaning. As guidance becomes habitual, behavior changes naturally. The man stops overcommitting. He chooses more carefully. He recognizes which opportunities are aligned and which are distractions. Others notice this discernment. They respect his decisions. They value his time. Money follows discernment because it eliminates waste. Many men waste decades exhausting themselves in unproductive motion. They equate effort with virtue. Yet the law rewards obedience, not exhaustion. When force is replaced by guidance, life becomes cooperative. Doors open quietly. Assistance appears without demand. Money arrives without chase. This law explains why money often appears when effort ceases. It is not reward for stopping. It is response to alignment. The man who trusts guidance does not fear delay. He knows that timing is part of provision. This knowledge calms the mind and sharpens perception. Force blinds perception. Guidance sharpens it. Money stays where guidance governs because chaos is absent. Chaos drives money away. This is the fifth spiritual reason money has run away. It was forced rather than followed. When force ends and guidance is honored, money no longer needs to avoid. It approaches, it cooperates, and it remains where action is directed, not desperate. Even when a man has learned to stand in position rather than pursuit, corrected expectation, created emotional safety, reclaimed authority, and replaced force with guidance, money may still behave inconsistently. if one subtle error remains. This error is contradiction. Money cannot move freely where thought, word, and expectation oppose one another. The law requires unity. Contradiction is seldom loud. It often hides behind reasonable language. A man says, "I trust supply," yet plans constantly for loss. He says, "I believe provision is certain," yet speaks daily of uncertainty. These mixed signals confuse the law. Money responds by hesitating or withdrawing. The subconscious mind cannot prepare simultaneously for increase and retreat. It must choose, and it always chooses the instruction repeated most often. The man who speaks trust but rehearses fear inwardly teaches the mind to expect fear's result. I have observed men who practiced affirmations faithfully, yet continued to narrate difficulty to others. They believed honesty required explanation. In truth, explanation reinforced limitation. Money obeyed the explanation rather than the affirmation. Unity does not require denial. It requires restraint. A man need not pretend conditions are different. He must simply refuse to speak against the order he is establishing. Silence is often the highest form of obedience. When contradiction exists, effort increases while results diminish. Energy is divided. Focus scatters. Money avoids divided environments because division produces instability. Others sense contradiction instinctively. They hesitate to cooperate with those who speak one way and act another. Trust requires consistency. Money follows trust. I once studied a man who claimed faith in provision yet constantly calculated worst outcomes. His calculations governed his decisions. His faith remained theoretical. When he ceased rehearsing loss, his actions changed. His circumstances followed. Contradiction often arises from habit rather than intention. Men repeat old stories because they are familiar. Familiarity is mistaken for truth. The law responds to familiarity, not intention. The man who corrects contradiction does so gently. He notices when words oppose direction and withdraws them without drama. Statements such as, "My thoughts, words, and actions agree," or "I no longer speak against my supply," restore coherence. Repetition is essential because contradiction was formed through repetition. As unity increases, the mind quiets. Debate ends. Decisions simplify. Money responds quickly because resistance has ended. Others notice this clarity. They trust direction. They cooperate readily. They feel secure engaging with a man who is internally settled. Many men waste years building and dismantling simultaneously. They advance and retreat in the same breath. This oscillation exhausts resources. Unity ends the cycle. When unity is established, money no longer needs to test the environment. It flows without obstruction. This law explains why some men experience partial success repeatedly. They correct some habits but retain contradiction. Full correction requires harmony. Unity does not require perfection. It requires consistency. Occasional doubt does not destroy unity. Habitual contradiction does. The man who practices unity conserves energy. He no longer battles himself. This conservation increases effectiveness without effort. Money remains where unity governs, because unity creates order. Order invites continuity. This is the sixth spiritual reason money has run away. Contradiction within the mind created instability. When contradiction ends, money no longer needs to hesitate. It moves, it settles, and it remains where clarity replaces conflict. Even when a man has corrected position, expectation, emotional safety, authority, guidance, and inner unity, money may still feel elusive if the final misunderstanding has not been resolved. This misunderstanding concerns receiving. Many men know how to pursue, plan, protect, and manage, yet they have never learned how to receive without resistance. And what cannot be received cannot remain. Receiving is not passive. It is not idle. It is alignment without tension. It is the quiet acceptance that supply is lawful and present. The man who struggles to receive believes unconsciously that provision must be earned through strain or justified through suffering. This belief blocks completion of the law. Many men accept money with suspicion. When it arrives, they question it. They anticipate its departure. They search for the condition attached to it. This suspicion signals mistrust. Money, responding to mistrust, withdraws. The man who receives calmly does not analyze arrival. He accepts it as natural. He does not ask, "Why now?" He does not ask, "How long will this last?" He allows supply to take its place without interrogation. I have observed men who labored for years to improve income. Yet when money finally arrived, they felt uneasy. They did not know how to hold it. They watched it closely. They expected disruption. Their discomfort instructed money to restore familiar conditions. Another man of equal circumstance received increase with calm acceptance. He did not dramatize arrival. He adjusted quietly. His life reorganized smoothly around the new level. Money stayed because it was not questioned. Receiving requires trust in law. The man must believe that supply is not accidental. He must accept it as orderly. When money is treated as surprise, it behaves as such, appearing and disappearing. Many men secretly believe that receiving without strain is undeserved. They equate ease with irresponsibility. This belief creates guilt. Guilt repels supply. Money does not remain where it is resented or doubted. The man who receives without guilt understands that law, not labor alone, governs supply. He honors effort without worshiping struggle. This understanding allows money to settle peacefully. Others sense this ease instinctively. They cooperate more readily with those who receive without embarrassment. They trust men who are comfortable with provision. Money flows toward comfort. Receiving also governs generosity. The man who receives freely gives wisely. The man who receives fearfully gives erratically. Balance depends upon acceptance. Many men attempt to give themselves permission to receive after achievement. Law does not wait for permission. It waits for alignment. When alignment is present, receiving becomes natural. Affirmations at this stage must affirm acceptance rather than effort. Statements such as, "I receive supply freely," or "What comes to me belongs with me," retrain the mind toward allowance. Repetition is essential because resistance to receiving was learned over time. Receiving also requires stillness. A restless mind cannot receive. It is always preparing to act, explain, or defend. Stillness allows completion. Money completes its movement only when it is allowed to arrive fully. Half receiving produces half results. Full receiving produces continuity. This is why many men experience repeated beginnings. Money arrives but never completes its stay. The man begins again and again, never allowing settlement. Receiving ends the cycle. The man who receives properly does not cling. He allows circulation. Circulation does not mean loss. It means flow governed by trust. Others respond to this maturity. They entrust greater responsibility. They offer longer partnerships. They commit more fully. Money follows commitment. Receiving also dissolves envy and comparison. The man who receives knows supply is not limited. He does not measure himself against others. Comparison ends when acceptance begins. Many men chase because they do not trust receiving. They believe motion ensures survival. In truth, Motion without reception exhausts. When a man learns to receive, he stops running. He stands where supply can meet him. This is the final spiritual reason money has run away. It was not fully received. When receiving is corrected, the law completes itself. Money no longer circles. It arrives, it settles, and it remains where it is welcomed, without fear, guilt, or interrogation. This completes the 7 corrections. There comes a moment, after all instruction has been given and all correction has been understood, when a man must stop seeking explanation and begin living conclusion. At that moment, prosperity ceases to be a subject of thought and becomes a condition of being. What once required effort to understand now requires only faithfulness to practice. Most men believe the end of instruction should feel triumphant. In truth, it feels quiet. The mind settles. The urgency dissolves. The need to fix, prove, or rush disappears. This quiet is not absence of ambition, but the restoration of order. When order returns, anxiety has no function. You will notice that the most profound evidence of change is not excitement, but steadiness. You wake without bracing. You act without rehearsal. You decide without apology. These signs indicate that the inner conflict which once drove pursuit has ended. Money responds to this end of conflict more than to any single technique. It recognizes the man who no longer argues with supply. It remains where it is not questioned. It flows where it is not feared. At this stage, many men are tempted to review the past. They calculate the years spent striving, chasing, worrying, and rebuilding. This reflection should not become regret. Those years were tuition. The lesson was necessary. No wisdom arrives without cost. What matters now is that repetition ceases to work against you and begins to work for you. Habit, once enemy, becomes ally. The same mind that rehearsed fear now rehearses order. The same attention that once magnified lack now sustains continuity. This is how decades are saved, not by avoiding effort, but by ending contradiction, not by increasing labor, but by removing resistance, not by gaining more knowledge, but by obeying what is already known. From this point forward, money will respond differently, not because circumstances changed first, but because posture has. You are no longer leaning forward anxiously. You are standing where provision can reach you without pursuit. Others will sense this shift without explanation. They will describe you as calmer, steadier, more dependable. They may trust you with responsibility more readily. They may offer cooperation without being asked. These responses are not favors. They are reflections. You may find that opportunities no longer arrive dramatically. They appear quietly. A conversation leads to another. An idea unfolds naturally. A connection forms without effort. This quiet unfolding is the signature of alignment. Be careful not to mistake this calm for stagnation. Stillness is not stoppage. It is precision. Motion that follows stillness is always effective. At times, old habits may attempt to return. A moment of fear, a reflex of calculation, a familiar thought of loss. Do not resist these appearances aggressively. Resistance feeds what it opposes. Simply return to position. Correction is immediate and gentle. You are no longer required to defend your financial life. Defense assumes threat. You are now operating from trust. Trust eliminates the need for vigilance. This trust does not make you careless. It makes you clear. You manage resources thoughtfully. You plan without panic. You respond rather than react. These qualities stabilize wealth more effectively than intensity ever could. It is important to understand that prosperity maintained through calm will never feel as dramatic as prosperity pursued through struggle. Drama belongs to instability. Order feels ordinary. That ordinariness is the goal. Many men abandon stability because it lacks excitement. They return to pursuit to feel alive. This is the temptation to avoid. Stability is not dullness. It is mastery. You will notice that money no longer occupies your thoughts constantly. Attention returns to purpose, creation, and contribution. When money is no longer feared, it no longer demands attention. This release of attention is not neglect. It is proper placement. Money becomes tool again, not taskmaster. Others respond positively to this shift. They feel safe around those who are not preoccupied. They trust those who are not desperate. They cooperate with those who are not pressing. This trust multiplies opportunity without effort. Cooperation replaces competition. Alignment replaces struggle. The greatest danger now is impatience disguised as ambition. Ambition rooted in confidence moves steadily. Ambition rooted in fear rushes. Know the difference and choose accordingly. Time is no longer enemy. You no longer race against imagined deadlines. You act when direction is clear. This timing preserves energy and multiplies results. From this position, even setbacks lose power. They are addressed calmly. They do not shake identity. They do not trigger retreat. They become adjustments, not verdicts. This is the difference between prosperity as event and prosperity as condition. Events come and go. Conditions remain. You have now established condition. It is not necessary to speak often of money. Excessive discussion invites unnecessary attention. Let conduct speak. Let results confirm. When others ask how you achieved stability, you may find explanation unnecessary. Words rarely convey alignment. Presence does. Live simply in the law. Speak carefully. Expect order. Receive calmly. Act when guided. Allow circulation. These habits require no strain. If you remain faithful to these principles, wealth will not surprise you, nor will it abandon you. It will behave as a companion rather than a visitor. This companionship is not sentimental. It is lawful. You are no longer chasing money. You are no longer defending against loss. You are standing where supply recognizes you. And because you are no longer running, money has no reason to run. It will come when needed. It will stay when trusted. It will move when directed. And it will do so quietly, steadily, and without conflict. This is not the end of effort, but the end of anxiety. Not the end of ambition, but the end of desperation. Not the end of work, but the end of struggle. You have not acquired something new. You have removed what interfered. Stand here, remain here, and allow life to respond as it was always designed to do.